Okay, did someone just
Hey,
join
Liz.
us?
Hi,
Who's that?
I'm Liz. Can you hear
Liz,
me?
welcome.
Thank you.
Hi, Liz.
Maverick, why don't we just give it one more minute? Um, or I tell you what, we can start introductions. Why don't we do that? We have Liz now here. I'd like everybody to go ahead. Let me see. Introduce yourself. Let us know perhaps your number one strength. Like to know in what way are you operating in the educational space, and what are your expectations are. So I guess four things: name, strength, expectations, and your background. All right. So Carol, I'll throw it to you because you're
All
up here on
right.
the screen.
I'm Carol Ann. I'm from California. My number one is achiever. I have a love-hate relationship with that one because I can't turn it off. I do. So what are the other things?
Expectations.
Actually, I just want to. I'm here to learn. I want to glean as much as I can because I'm really. I teach cohorts of teachers all over the country on strengths as well as at the university level. So I'm really interested in how we can work together kind of on that level. And I'm also extremely interested in the student perspective and how to really leverage that in the on the student level.
Okay, great. And so I mentioned earlier that the focusing on the student might be a subject for another conversation
Yeah,
at some other point.
that's just what
Right. You have
I'm.
a general interest,
Yeah.
and okay, fantastic. And so to get them all, we got your strength, expectation, we got your background, we got your name. Fantastic. Thank you, Carol. All right, so Jan, I'm going to pass it over to you.
Great, thank you.
Hey,
Is that loud enough? Can you hear me?
Hmm?
Yeah.
not well, but we can hear you. Yeah.
Oh, right. Okay. So my number one strength is strategic, and I've been working in a number of different schools, but also universities and businesses. But I'm really interested in metrics because I don't quite believe the impacts that I'm seeing in schools, so particularly in the secondary schools over here, so year 7 and 11, and it's been quite amazing. So I want to kind of document it, and I'm looking for some simple measures that maybe we can even then standardize and start comparing, and looking at what we're doing so we can really sell the benefits of using strengths in schools.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Jan. All right, so Jill, I'm going to unless I missed anything. Did
Yeah.
Jan get everything? I think she got the expectations, the name, the strength, and the background.
So I
All right.
want to come out with some really clearly defined ideas, and maybe people go away with a bit of homework to do to flesh something out,
And maybe come
and
back
come back.
like an ongoing conversation here. Is that what
Yeah,
you're saying?
I'd like to get. I'm a maximizer, so beware. But that's number seven. But it really drives in. But I would like to see something tidy and that I can use.
Got it. All right. Great. All right. Moving on. Jill, did I say that right? I'll
Yeah,
let
No,
you
Liz.
introduce
I'm Liz,
yourself.
but Jill works. It's
Oh,
Friday.
no, 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 no. I'm sorry. You introduce yourself, please.
It's okay. My name is Liz Ramos.
Liz.
I should put the little label on here as we get used to each other in a minute. Let's see. So my number one is restorative, and what else here? I wrote it down. My experience. So I do probably a majority of what I do is more with work teams, but I've already done some work with a university extension at UC Berkeley. I'm in California, Northern California, and they support college students, high school students coming into college. Those are their client bases. So I want to be able to build some depth there, as well as I'm planning for a workshop in next month for children, for the Explorer and their parents. So it's an area that I'm wanting to expand in some more. And I think the same as was mentioned, I do really well with building community. My expectation is to build some community with people that are actually working on this already and or working towards it, and that we can support each other, as was just mentioned, to follow up with some things that we can go back, bring something back to contribute to the group.
So did I hear the last part was I missed that. You're saying you like this idea of joining a kind of an ongoing community of like-minded practitioners, let's say, a community of practice,
Exactly.
trying
Just,
to.
the Yammer is really great, and sometimes we all chime in there, right, and get some
Mhm.
things, but I definitely thrive. I'm a relator is big in me, and I
Okay.
thrive in building actual relationships and some momentum with sharing things. Yeah.
So could I ask? I'll introduce myself in a minute. Would one of you like to I am recording this, but maybe somebody could get a volunteer for taking notes regarding what we agreed to or what we think we need to follow up on. That would be helpful. I don't know. I'm going to be
Yeah.
actively
Well,
facilitating.
I've been sort of looking and exploring how I can define some metrics for a little while, and I'm really interested in coming up with, say, 10 or 12 defined items that we can then come up with some scores that go from, like, the one I've picked out of a tool that somebody had uploaded goes from 1 to 11.
Yeah,
And then I'd want some definitions around what 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 looks like under each of those items, so that it's not just down to me and my gut feeling of what
right.
score a particular student
Yeah.
has,
I
but it's
think he
something
I
that we
think he
can
was
all
just
share.
referring to taking notes during for our
Yeah,
whatever we commit to for this
right,
meeting,
right.
right?
I
Okay.
just, yeah, because I'm right. I can't. It's hard for me to do both.
I
I can
That's
try.
fine. I can take some notes. I can
All
take
right,
Oh,
thanks. It's Liz,
or we
right?
can, yeah,
Liz,
and we
not
can
Jill.
all
All
you
right.
got it.
Okay. So my name's Justin. My number one strength is Maximizer.
Cool.
I don't have a love-hate. I just love it. So it goes in line with myself. Just kind of full line acceptance. Okay, just accept myself however I am. Um, Let me see. My expectation is, yeah, I am actually pitching strengths right now to high schools and colleges in my area, and I want to be able to tell a story. I actually partnered with a really high-class consultant once, and I watched him pitch what he does. I can actually show you his slide deck, and it's very powerful. So he starts with, he has metrics, but he shows a model, a framework of how to approach the issue. Now, his specialty was innovation. So he's saying, look, you hire me, and this is how I will bring innovation to your organization. So I think it's not just metrics. I think it's also a story about how you, let me see, I should do this. I should click on myself so you can, it's a story on how to bring strengths to a school, and metrics is a part of that. So I think that's a little bit of my expectation. It's not just metrics, it's how to tell the story in a way that's compelling to school leaders. Did I leave anything out? All right, so let's get started. We have an agenda. I sent it out earlier, and the first one is why. I think we talked about that a little bit. Why metrics? For me, it's being able to tell the story. Jan, do you want to just talk a little bit about your background in research and sorry for my dogs there. Just
Yeah.
talk a little bit about maybe what you also will be looking for. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, well, my research, my background was in scientific research, looking at radiation damage in solar cells. So it's so far away now. I worked in industry, and commercializing technology was my thing, and then I moved into the policy arena to do that. So working in a policy arena, everything needs to be evidence-based. So I'm always looking for numbers, but I'm also conscious that working with scientists and engineers, they want they want facts. They want to be able to peg, look for change, and I'm always looking for impact and how I can make a difference to an organisation. And I like the way you call it a story, Justin, in terms of the pitch. That really chimes with me. Um, and I think actually that is exactly what I'm trying to do. I can build the story, but I'm looking for some numbers to that are really quantifiable. Um, so I guess that whilst I've got a science research background, it's that working in the policy of our environment is what has given me the really grounded appreciation in the need for numbers and demonstrating that you've made a difference. And so that, yeah, that's the nub of what I'm trying to do. But I love that way of building the story.
So why I guess picking up on what you're saying, would you like to see that slide deck that I referred to? I mean, I can go anywhere, but
Yeah, really, yeah, I'd like
would
that.
that be as far as telling a story?
Yeah, for me it would, but I don't know about the other two.
No, Carol, what do you or
I mean, my focus is what happens after we get those metrics. So My background is professional development, so I take the metrics, and then my sweet spot is delivering that to the teacher. So
Right.
anything you do at this point is going to help.
Okay. All right. So I'm going to do that unless there's something else, Liz, you want to chime in here. I'm going to see if I can share my screen.
Yeah, and
Okay.
you know what? Do you mind? I apologize. I looked in the email you sent earlier. You mentioned an agenda. Sorry if I missed that. I looked in Yammer and in my email, and I don't.
Oh, it's. I thought I sent. Did you register?
Yes, I didn't.
I just sent an email either this morning or late last night. Check.
Liz,
because I registered this morning.
Let me shut the door. My dogs are going crazy.
Liz, give me your email. I'll send it to you.
Perfect. I'll just put it in the chat right now.
Okay.
There we go.
Okay. All right, I'm going to share my screen. Let me see if I can. All right. So this is really. Let me pull up. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
All right. All right. Let me see if this is. So this is. All right. Well, this is. All right. So. Oh my gosh, my dogs are going crazy. My wife just got home. I'm so sorry. All right. So the slides are clunky, but the concept. Let me see if I can pull up a. Maybe this is a better version. All right. Yeah, this is a much better version. I'm gonna let this dog out. Come on, Phil. Come on. Get out.
And this is why this year I just got a regular office effective last week.
I'm sorry.
I was just giggling, Justin, because I said that was one of the reasons I got a regular office.
Yeah, right. Okay, note to self. Start looking for that. Okay, so I'm going to go through this really quickly because the point is not to talk about innovation. The point here is I felt like this consultant did a really high, powerful job in explaining why what he does is impactful. All right, so because an organization needs to become more innovative. So he talks about what he calls the formula of innovation: creativity times process excellence times business acumen. In fact, I saw a great correlation here between this equation and strengths. So there's a strengths equation for excellence, where it's talent times, help me out here, talent times skill times investment equals excellence, right? So I could see some correlation here. Okay, so then he talks about data, how organizations that are more innovative perform higher. Okay, are you there?
Can you click on one of the other slides? I hear you, but because it's stuck on the one. So if you can just kind of click on the other slides, and we can.
Oh, I thought I did. Hold on. Let me try this.
It's showing the one that says focus on drivers of organizations.
How about that? Is that it?
Nope. It's still on. It's just stuck on slide number.
Oh, that's no
3.
good.
On number 12.
Oh, you're right. You know what? I shared the wrong one. All right, so let's see.
I'm not following.
Yeah. All right. So let me see. Here it is. Okay. So here it is. Innovation. Can you see it now?
Yes.
All right. So here is the formula for innovation: creativity times process times business acumen. Okay. And that will drive innovation in an organization. So then he talks about data. He shows data, how organizations that are more innovative perform better. I'm going quickly, but I'm just trying to tell the story quickly. Then he says, if you look, there are different types of organizations. Some are creative, some focus on efficiency, and some focus on business model. Right? So in the computing industry, Apple is more creative, where Microsoft is more focused on its business model. In automotive, Nissan, so he has some examples, okay, of different organizations, excellent organizations that fall into these different categories. Then this is where it gets interesting. Then he has how ready is your organization for innovation? Now I could see the same thing for strengths. How ready? This is very similar to what Dion Rademeyer did, Jan. Right? Okay. How ready are you to infuse strengths into your organization? So I could see a big correlation here between what he's doing and what we want to do. So he says, okay, so regarding creativity, how does your structure, people, methods, and technology fall into creativity? And rate yourself where you are now. Also rate yourself regarding process, rate yourself regarding business model. So he's engaging the leaders to rate themselves, and this is an assessment that he has them do, and they come out with some, red, green, and blue of where their strengths are and where their weaknesses are. Okay? All right, so then he talks about that more. I don't want to spend too much time on this. He then looks at the leadership. So this is what's going on here. He looks at the leadership, not just the organization, but the leadership. How ready is the leadership for change? And you can think about, you could be asking school principals, or you could be asking college presidents or deans, how ready are you and invested in you in strengths regarding your institution? And so then he gets, so you get some assessment regarding the leaders. And then he has a framework to drive change. And this framework looks like this. Now, Gallup has their own, but he says, here's the levers that you want to pull in order to drive innovation in your organization. So regarding structure, look at how the organization is designed, where it's located. I mean, you think about GE, right? GE, I don't know if you know this, maybe in the UK, but General Electric just left Connecticut, and they're moving to Boston because there's more talent there, right? Mm-hmm. So finally, he gets to 5 questions regarding infusing innovation in your organization, and then he ends up with packages. Now, this is really kind of, level 1, level 2, level 3, meaning how much effort do you want to put in? How much investment do you want to make in driving this change initiative? And I think that that's a very effective pitching model. And so I'm going to stop there. Okay, I'm just telling you that this was a pitch that he made. Now we didn't end up at the business, but I thought it was very, very effective. And so I could see myself creating something very similar that I could deliver, or you could deliver, in a half an hour or an hour to a series of business leaders to tell them why strengths would drive better outcomes that they care about. I'm going to stop there. What do you think? What's in your mind? Can you see me?
Yeah, I'll tell you what's in my mind. Where my head is at is I would love for someone else to give that presentation, and once it's sold, that's where I want to work. Like, I want to work after that pitch. I don't know if I'm the best person to give, I don't know. I don't know if I'm the best person to give that pitch, but once that pitch is done, I would be really good at the next delivering that to their whoever.
Oh,
that's what I like.
Thank you for a person. Here's a woman who knows her strengths, right?
Well, that's my spot. Like, that's where.
Love it.
That's where I love that spot.
Okay, so we lost Jan. I know she'll come back. I have complete faith. So I'm going to pass it over to Liz. Why don't you just tell me what's in your mind right now?
Cool. I think I'm also, my strongest strategic is more futuristic, and I kind of combine my futuristic and restorative to make a more strategic planning. What I gathered from hearing you and watching that is looking at a good model, right? I'm a big picture person, so a model that would work in terms of us through this process of collaboration, better defining how do we take the skeleton and talk about which metrics matter.
Yes.
Which I'm sure those of you that I feel like I'm the one that, from what I heard, I'm the one that's invested less time actually understanding the metrics that matter in the school system. But we can talk about as a group filling it in, if you will. And I'm happy to. That's what I heard.
Great, and I think that's the message I intended to tell. Because I've been there. I'm in there right now. I am pitching this to a high school and to a college. And they're both very interested, but I don't have this tool built. Right now I'm just engaging them through my very being and presence, my own verbal pitch. I think it'd be good to have this. Jan, are you back? We lost you.
I think she's trying to come in and reconnect.
She'll come back in.
And I think, I don't want to my activator kind of thinks out loud, but with education, I think there are so many there has to be, I'm sure, a way of customizing this to some degree. For example, I'm thinking of the group that I shared with you from UC Berkeley. Their statistics and their metrics are around percentage of their clients, clients that get into, college and graduation rates, and each group, they're in education for sure, and that's their role. But depending on whether it's, a K through 12 or, university, I think the metrics will vary slightly based on the specific target that we're working with, I would think.
Yeah, my experience is that there is, even Gallup does this, there's different set of metrics for K-12 and there's different set of metrics for higher ed. So, that's actually a good discussion perhaps to have. There might be some metrics that transcend both of those, right? I mean,
right. And maybe, and thank you, Caroline, for sending me the agenda. I saw that was one of the topic points, kind of talking about what are those metrics, and maybe seeing where possibly we might have most commonality or most use for those, and starting with one to build the model out, and then, we can adjust and customize further for maybe other relevant metrics. But if I look at Jan's comments before, for example, she was working on year 7, which I'm assuming she's talking about the grade.
Yeah, I think that it's something like a junior in high school. I'm not sure, but I think that's what it means.
Yeah, and 11th.
No, I think it's younger than that.
Yeah, okay.
She has both grade 7 and year 11. So
yeah,
both Explorer.
So a middle school and a high school.
Yeah, she has both Strengths Quest and Strengths Explorer. Mm-hmm. That's too bad she dropped off. That's the thing about technology sometimes.
You gotta love it.
And I saw there was this book coming out on parenting. I don't know if there will be anything to glean with regards to analysis or, anything that we can extrapolate from.
I actually have an advanced copy of the book, and I read it, and I wouldn't say that. I don't.
I love your soft way of putting it.
No, I didn't see metrics regarding parenting or something like that.
Is it specific to then Strengths Explorer, the parenting?
No. In fact, with the book, you get 3 assessments. You get 1 for the parent, 2 for the kids. So you get a Strengths Finder, a Strengths Quest, and a Strengths Explorer.
Oh, wow. Yeah. All 3?
Yeah. Yep.
That's fantastic.
I thought so.
Good deal for the book, whatever the book costs. Okay. Yeah. Well, I don't want us to get sidetracked. I was just thinking that I saw that the other day and didn't know.
Good. You're helping me stall because Jan, I feel like we really need her, and I actually have her cell phone. Maybe I should call her.
I had to do that.
Oh, here she comes.
Is she coming? Jan, are you there? Yay! Can you say something? All right, you can hear us, but we can't hear you. Is that it?
She froze. There we go.
Jan, are you there? I think we can hear you. Say something.
Yeah. Hello. Right, I'm back.
All right. Good. We were stalling. Okay, so Carol and Liz were just talking about their feedback regarding what I presented. I don't know where we lost you. I tried to be very brief, yet, and you were talking about how you liked the idea of a story, and then you cut out.
I was there I saw some of your slides that you showed about innovation. So, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw your some of the innovation slides that you talked about the different stages in the process.
So my thinking is that we could come up with a story. This is this that I want to do as, let's say, I'm calling myself a social entrepreneur. So I want to be able to tell a story to leaders of educational institutions with metrics and data that that hits the right buttons. Is that sounding like something that would interest you as well, Jan?
Yeah, I suppose I'm kind of happy with the way I pitch the whole strengths agenda and what it can, the impact of it. And so the metrics is just a key part of it, that people talk about it, but I just haven't seen anything that is
specific enough for the people that I talk to.
Or compelling enough.
Yeah. Yeah. And people talk of open engagement, and some of the Gallup Q12 stuff's great, but if people haven't done it and haven't done strengths, then trying to then sell them another package as well.
So let me, I'm trying to go with the flow here. You mentioned hope and engagement. I thought that I would bring up a slide that showed what Gallup does. Would that be helpful?
Yeah, cool.
All right.
Great to look at the land of what's out there.
Yeah. Okay. So what I'm, hold on, let me escape out of that. And all right. I believe this is it. All right. So this, all right. So, can you see my PowerPoint?
Yeah.
All right. So let me see. I'll maximize this. So Gallup has a model regarding how strengths impact academic outcomes, and the University of Minnesota did their own research.
Oh yeah, I've seen their reports. Yeah.
Seen that report. Carol or Liz, have you seen this report?
No.
All right. So this report is, I thought, pretty exhaustive, and I'd be happy to send it to you. It's out there online. You can just, Google strengths at the U.
I'm still seeing the innovation readiness slides.
I was going to say we're back. Yeah, on the innovation.
Oh, we're back to the innovation one.
Yeah.
All right. I got to get myself straightened out.
I'm always like, I'm not following you.
All right, not happening there, Justin. All right, so let me stop.
I'm never ashamed to admit I don't get it. I'm like, I don't see what you're talking about.
Right. How about now? Can you see higher ed and strengths?
Yes.
All right. All right, so just to cut to the chase, they were able to show correlations between strengths awareness and an indirect connection to student retention and increases in GPA. And it says indirect. I'll show what they mean by indirect in a minute. It goes through hope and engagement, which Jan was mentioning. They found that students who take StrengthsFinder have higher rates of retention and GPAs, those that don't. Students who see the value in strengths can name their top 5 and have who can name their top 5 have a higher GPA, and strengths awareness is positively associated with students' self-reported sense of belonging and some learning outcomes. Okay, so here is the model. This is Jan, I am not a statistics guru here, so this is a form of a regression analysis to show correlations between independent and dependent variables. And so what they're showing here is on the right-hand side, you've got 2 academic outcome metrics. Retention from freshmen.
Do you want to click through a couple of slides? We're still seeing higher ed and strength slide.
Are you really? Why is that? How about now?
Yeah, hope and engagement, yeah.
Okay, so on the right-hand side, we have retention to the second year of university, and then we have GPA for the full semester, okay? And then on the left-hand side, we have strengths initiatives, such as a training workshop on strengths, and what they categorize as strengths discussions. So the numbers on these arrows is, I guess, and Janet, if you can jump in here, you help me out. These are some kind of, it's a correlation factor.
I'm not a statistician, but yeah, there'll be something like that.
Yeah. So, what was really interesting though is, the strengths training workshop had less of a effect on strengths awareness than just simple discussions. Isn't that interesting? That's, note to self. That's, that's why peer mentoring programs are high on my list of recommendations.
Yeah.
So anyway,
Justin, do you have like a copy of this that you can send us?
I do, but you could just Google it.
See it bigger.
There's a whole on the University of Minnesota website. There's a whole.
Yeah. Okay, I'm trying to get on there right now, but it's like.
You can't. All right. So is that better?
Yes, so much better. Thank you.
All right. So then you've got, okay, so strength awareness drives two things, and Jan was mentioning this. It drives hope, and Gallup defines hope as a positive sense of future possibilities. I mean, I guess maybe that's hope, period. But anyway, it's a sense that, I have a positive future in front of me. And then engagement, right? I'm actively engaged in what I'm doing. And so strengths awareness drives both of those. It drives engagement more than hope, but right? And so then engagement actually is a driver of hope itself. So, okay, and then this part I don't really understand. Academic self-efficacy. I guess this has to do with
so internal sort of like belief in themselves and their
right.
capability.
Thank you. You know what? We're guessing here. I have to get. In fact, I have a connection. I'm going to interview the person that wrote this. In fact, maybe I should just invite them to our little huddle here.
I was thinking when you think of self-efficacy, I just think of Maslow's hierarchy
right.
of needs.
Fair enough. Okay, great.
At the top.
Thank you. And then finally, so there's links then to these student outcomes. So this is one existing model that links strengths to academic performance. Let me just stop there and let me have someone else talk.
So it's an interesting model, and it's in terms of the UCL that I work with, their student retention is something like 95%. So implementing something like that doesn't really say a lot to the academics about the impact. So it's interesting, but for that university,
that's a very great point.
Nolan Merkler, please come to the.
And that's one thing that we were briefly touching on, Jan, before you jumped off, which I was saying, depending on whether you're working with junior high or, K through 12 or higher education, this discussion of metrics that we're having might vary a little bit. Obviously, the GPA one, I think, is relevant across, doesn't matter what level of education. Retention is definitely, I think, on the higher scale for higher education. So I'm curious, Jan, for the metrics you were looking at just in general. I did open the grid, but what types of metrics have you started to?
So the kinds of things I'm looking at. So I'm looking here at our secondary. We have our school system. We have two different systems here, but one of them is like the American system. But the majority is that students go to a secondary school age 11. And they stay in the same school environment till they're 16. And sometimes they stay till they're 18, and sometimes they go on to a college. So I'm working our year 7 to 11, and they're in the fixed education system. So the kind of metrics I'm looking for, schools measure attitude to learning, which typically in most schools is 1, 2, and 3. Or maybe it goes to 5, but the ones that 4 and 5 are really in serious trouble. They have a CAT score that they do when they enter the school.
What score?
Also a CAT score, CAT. It's a software tool that all schools use, and it's got a predictor of outcomes, of academic outcomes for when they're 16. So they measure them when they're 11. They do a test when they enter secondary school. So they measure them at periods throughout their period in their secondary education.
Is this CAT program just UK based, or?
I thought it was an international based, but because what do you have? You have GAT. What scores do you have?
I don't know, and I think this is part of our homework.
Okay.
Liz, can you just jot this down? I mean, I can volunteer, but I think we need to know more about this CAT. I really like this conversation, by the way, Jan. I really. Your strategic is now coming out.
So the school attendance is another one. Well, so all schools do a percentage attendance over time, and parents get reported on it. So
schools in the U.S. get paid on attendance. At least I know here, like if they have low attendance, they don't get paid from.
Yeah, I think ours do now too. Yeah. So I'm interested so the other things that they measure are there's the students that are not engaged in class. There's a measure of the number of times that they're put on report, the number of times they're given a detention. So we're looking at behavioural improvements as well, and that's driven by the findings that we had when we did the workshop in July, which was literally with a whole tutor group were disengaged, and the behaviour was seen by the teachers to improve immediately, because we were giving them insights into the being saying good things to each other, but also we showed them Simon Hurry's video, Passion and Purpose, and we had them doing teamwork and talking about everybody being different and unique. So it was the other thing, the thing that we did at the very beginning of this workshop, which I didn't realise this was going to be an important thing in the measurements of impact until afterwards. We gave them a worksheet which was taken from the Gallup tools, and it was we asked them to tell us something that they were good at, like a skill, and what they liked doing, and what was the thing that they thought was the best about themselves. So we were looking for them to say, I'm really good at focusing, I'm good at concentrating, I'm really good at... And what we found with the group of year 11 girls who have got low self-esteem is that they found it impossible to say anything that they were actually good at. They could say, one of them, they could say they were good at horse riding, but they couldn't say they were good at concentrating. And their friends were able to say, oh, you're really good at making friends and making people feel welcome and involved. So what with both groups of students that I'm working with at the moment, I've got this sheet that they've tried to fill in. So what I can say in terms of their self-esteem, I could say that they found it impossible. So if I had a Likert scale of 1 to 5 or 1 to 10, I could put them really on the low end in terms of being their ability to say something positive about themselves was 2, maybe 1 or 2. And I'm hoping that by the end of it, they'll be able to say, we could give them a score of 6 or 7. They quite easily are able to say something positive about themselves.
Jan, would you be willing to share that questionnaire, those 3 questions? I try to write them down.
Yeah, I just created them out of, the best of me.
Oh, the best of me exercise?
It's not that, it's an adaptation of it, yeah. And this is something else I'm working on. So I'm creating this sort of this worksheet, which is a poster.
I love it. Unbelievable. I love it.
Can you read it?
I'm reading. It drives me crazy. I just love the visual part of it. Oh, that's wonderful.
And I love what drives me. This makes me happy. What am I really good at? And then where's the guy that says you drive me crazy?
That's awesome. It looks like fun.
So my aim is to use it with corporates, but also with schools. And then it's called All About Me.
Yep. Love it.
So it's got like a guides on. It's used in a facilitated workshop.
Yep.
And it's really about, and the idea is that people will fill it in the workshop, but then they will put it on the wall if they want to.
All right, so I'm going to just kind of lasso us back here. Thank you for sharing that. What I heard is that you have a certain number of metrics that you are familiar with, such as an attitude of learning, CAT scores, school attendance records, number of detentions, and number of behavioral problem reports.
Yeah.
Okay.
I believe the school has got a measure for self-esteem, but I haven't managed to get that back out of the teacher yet.
Now, the one thing that I had a couple things in my mind I'd be willing to share kind of in response to that, but let me, I guess before I do that, Carol, Liz, would you like to just chime in here on anything that Jan said?
Well, I like graphics, so I...
You like, right.
I totally dug
By the
that.
way, for those of you who don't know, Carol wrote a whole book called Draw on Your Strengths.
Yeah, I've got it. Yeah.
I saw that and I was like, woo-woo!
Okay. So one of the things that is in my mind is we don't necessarily measure excellence. We're measuring, this is my maximizer coming out, we seem to be measuring like poor detention, we're measuring absenteeism, and I want to measure how excellent. I'm sorry, my maximizer's like,
no,
okay.
I agree, absolutely. Yeah, no, the one thing I'm looking for now is by the end of it, I want to be able to say that each student has been able to write themselves a personal statement based on their talents.
Well, here's my. I think what comes to mind with that comment. I love it. Number one, because I think that's the foundation, obviously, of how StrengthsFinder came about, right? By measuring what creates excellence rather than opposite. However, my business kind of side comes in terms of what's going to get the message heard to get in the door, and with your great intention about telling a good story, what if part of that story is, these are the metrics that are important to them because they are. That's their reality right now of a lot of our school systems. So, you touch on the metrics and some of these items that they're already doing that they measure, but part of telling that story of transformation, could be seeding those things of, but what if, we got to a point where we shifted a culture, we shifted not, improving that so much that we are measuring excellence, that you're looking at, number, whatever, college, students that go to college, or different type of metrics where you're looking at measuring excellence and having that be part of the story of transformation of where they could be led by implementing a strengths-based culture.
That is a fantastic point, Liz. You're right on the money. And I would say that my training in selling is you want to talk about their pain. You need to be talking about the problems that they have to wrestle with every day. And so you're right on the money there. I think talking about these other things like detention and and whatnot, and attendance and academic performance or lack of it, you need to be speaking that language. You're right. Okay. So where would you guys want to go from here? I have a couple ideas, but is there anything else, Jan, you wanna continue on, or because well, I'll just stop there. I have some other thoughts, or do you wanna do you have other metrics that you want to elaborate on?
No, that's then. I mean, the ones that it was about, have the students then created of being able to write a personal talent statement, and so that it's. I think that the kind of some of the ideas are in that sort of chart. I think there's 10 or 12 of them, and so I'm wanting to tie it into the tool, and so I think that's where I'm looking at. So I'm really delighted. It'd be just great to hear what you've got to say as well.
All right, so I put together a short list, and I'm going to go through it. My intention is just so that we can drive this conversation in a way that's meaningful. Please stop me at any point if you don't think it's valuable, or I just need feedback.
Go for
Okay?
it. You need verbal processing. I hear you.
Okay. All right. So,
Jennifer Miller was trying to dial in, and I think that's and I did ping her the link through an email.
you did send. I sent her the link today. Let me see. I haven't gotten an email from her.
I see Gurmeet on our down here as well.
She did pop in and then went out again, so I'm hoping she comes back in.
Yeah, me too.
Can you hear me?
Is that Jen? Is that you?
This is Gurmeet, and I'm actually driving. so I'm going in and out, but I'm trying to follow the conversation.
Okay. I don't know how. Well,
I love that. Where are you at?
I am in Washington D.C. and I'm stuck in a traffic jam, so I wasn't able to make it back to take the call. So I have Hangouts on my cell phone, and I'm driving, and I can't see anything, but I'm just listening to things, and I'm visualizing what all the screens look like.
Just envision the very best possible thing you can imagine.
There are 4 really good-looking people. I'll just
Speak for yourself.
Yeah. So go ahead, share your ideas. When I get home, I will pull all the files up. I did join late, so I'm trying to kind of, still grasp what the outcome of the conversation is. But go ahead, please, and ignore me because I'm driving and I'm listening.
Okay, Gurmeet. Well, welcome.
Thank you, everyone.
Okay, so I'm going to share some slides again. So some of these you've already seen, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time here, right? You've seen like Gallup measures engagement, They measure retention, sales volume, productivity. They measure the impact of management, and supervisors on employee engagement. So I think all of those can relate to schools. I mean, I think that there is a legitimate argument to say that when a school leader focuses on teachers' strengths, that the faculty and staff are 8 times more engaged. So, Gallup uses just general leaders, but I think what I'm doing is I'm linking that to the language of school systems. Okay.
So have you just taken the generic Gallup stuff and
Yes.
turned it, so
Yes.
data is broad, but you
Yes.
okay.
Can you comment on that?
Only that it's not a specific study that's based on school leaders.
No, it's not.
Okay.
It's a general statement that they say that so the general statement is something like this. When managers predominantly focus on employee strengths, it reduces disengagement to 1%. So I am saying when school supervisors, deans, or principals, dominantly focus on employee strengths, they reduce teacher disengagement to 1%. Now that might be an unfair statement. I don't know. Jan, what's your reaction?
My initial reaction is that it's not technically true. So I think I'd be careful about using that, because I know that that's the kind of thing people that I work with would ask me for the research report behind it.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd be careful.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I've had people ask me questions when I've gone in with something like that. Yeah.
So this is what I think we should put down as homework or as future work. Okay. I think I would suggest that we need this data.
Yeah.
And maybe we should challenge Gallup to get it for us, or if they can't, we will. Is that? What do you think?
I was on mute. Yeah, I'm looking through a few reports. I think, at least for myself, I know that there are some that I've downloaded but haven't gone through with the fine-tooth comb to see what is available. I think we could also leverage, like the universities that have implemented it and published it, like the University of Minnesota, how you have that one. I think that's also valid data, because you use it as a case study, right? And usually they attach any of those backup reports if ever requested, and because it's public information. But I wrote down as speaking of the metrics, I think one of the action items would be to have an informational interview about what's relevant, and kind of come together maybe in our backyards with who some of your potential clients might be, which are a great way to get in and build relationship, and come back and see what are some of those commonalities, if there's any differences, what are the core metrics that are used. But for me, I'm going to take away to do an informational interview.
I love that. You jot that down as an action. I think it's something that we can all do. We can interview, at least 2 clients. What metrics do they care about?
I can't believe I forgot, but one of my biggest clients, that more from the admin perspective, it's the Office of Education, that in California, and I imagine similarly across the states, they're what I call the corporate for the whole district, right? So they oversee every school district in the county. So I can definitely ask for some insight there, and then more at a school.
That would be great,
well.
Liz. That'd be really fantastic. Yeah, we lost Jan again, but I know she'll come back. What should I do?
If I take it I'd like to jot down real quick, kind of I'm the big picture person, kind of the big, I go back to the why. So if we look at what would we want to, independent of who does what piece, all of that, but what would be a good end result for our coming together and doing this? So I'm an activator, so I love the action steps. But one thing I'm hearing from this conversation today is having a good story to tell with some data, with some metrics, the pieces that matter based on the process, but that one of the end results would be to come out with a good introductory presentation, informational sales pitch, whatever you want to call it, case study for presenting to that particular market. Is that accurate?
I think it is, although as you say that, it occurs to me that the story may be different for higher ed than it is for K-12, and the story may be different in the UK than it is from the US. So it might be a tall ask, but yeah, I would say that's on my mind is the story. I think perhaps from Jan's point of view, I think she's just more interested in the metric, but they're related.
How about for you, Carolyn? What would be? I know we kind of now that we've kind of been talking for this last hour. Has anything? Do you have any different perspective on what we could get out as an end result?
No, I'm interested in the absolute practical on the street for the teacher. Like, how does that? Not necessarily how the pitch is, but how that translates down to the teacher that has to deal with standards and has like that's where my heart is there, is with after all these metrics are done, I want to know how does that translate to teachers and to kids, and how does that make them better people?
All right, tell you what, Carol, why don't I'd be willing to volunteer to set up another discussion on one of those issues. Like, pick one. Like, how about delivering to 10-year-olds or 11-year-olds, or how about delivering to teachers? Is there something that I could easily commit to setting another conversation like this up on that topic alone? Would that interest you?
Yeah, I mean that would be kind of where I'm at in this whole process. Is that I'm totally interested in the metrics, but what I'm interested in is after those metrics or after that research is done,
Yep.
How does that happen? Practical, like in a regular work environment.
Okay, so
and
I
it should
will.
all be in alignment, right? I mean, from
They should be. Right.
Completely. Yeah, it does trickle down, but
yeah.
The research part, you'll lose me on like analytical, all those heavy duty thinking ones have got to be way down. They're at the bottom of my. I want to see practical application. How does that translate to a 6th grade teacher in a social studies classroom? That's kind of where I'm focused.
All right, so then what do you suggest as far as I think there's a lot to talk about there, and this is not the right time or
No, I still want to hear these metrics conversations because I think it directly applies to what I'm doing.
All right, so
I still want to hear that.
If I set up another, in a couple weeks or something, and we talk on this issue, all right, you and I will collaborate on what that topic is.
Perfect.
All right, so I'll write that down to collaborate with you. All right, so I'm going to so we lost you. We have Jan back. Wonderful. Welcome back, Jan. Oh no, did we lose her again?
She's
frozen.
frozen.
All right, so note to Jan, we got to get her on a high-speed connection or something. All right, so I think what I'm going to do is show some other things that I've collected, okay? And unless you have other thoughts or you've seen enough of the slides that I'm presenting.
No, I just have to. I have a class in about 2 minutes, so I'm just gonna have to jump out. But I'll catch the recording of this.
Fair enough, and yeah, I think we all have to go in a few minutes. So I presented some of these. This is the assessment. Can you see my PowerPoint?
Yeah.
All right. So this is Dion Rademeyer's out of Australia. This is the assessment he asked his clients to fill out. He basically says, where are you now regarding offering strengths assessments to your employees? Where do you offer initial strengths coaching? Do you have a team strength profile? Have people generated a personal statement? You get the idea, right? So they're able to rate these, and then they're able to sense of like, it just gives them a list of things that they can do to infuse strengths into their organization, and this is what Jan was referring to. These are metrics that I've collected from Gallup on resilience, okay, regarding the number of hours you use your strengths a day, and its effect on happiness, energy, as well as negative emotions such as stress, worry, and pain. I'm going through this really fast. Stop me if if it's too fast. Okay, so Gallup does what's called a student a Gallup student poll every year in November. Okay, and it's free. It's offered to any K-12 or K-12 institution in America. And they ask them a bunch of questions, and they find that two questions are strongly correlated to student engagement, and these are the two questions. My school is committed to building the strengths of each student, and I have at least one teacher who makes me excited about the future, right? So what's interesting is that students who strongly agree to that are 30 times more likely to be engaged in school. So I think that's a compelling argument for creating a strengths culture.
Totally.
Okay. I just need to know I'm not talking to myself.
Yeah. I was listening when you said. Yeah,
All right, love it. All right. For those of you that are certified, is everybody here certified? Anyway, the learning series that happened last August, Gallup presented how they help organizations drive performance through strengths. And these are the 5 buckets that they tackle: leadership, human capital, structure, rituals, and performance. So I thought that this is regarding the story of how to go approach. This might be another. This is how Gallup does it. Gallup that has these 5 buckets that they have organizations focus on. Moving on. This is that culture is part of a larger kind of brand and purpose. I'm not going to spend too much time on that. Again, that's how Gallup.
Carolyn.
Bye.
Who has to go?
Carolyn had to go. Yeah.
Oh, Carolyn, it's so great to meet you. I look forward to working with you more closely.
Yeah. She's gone.
All right, so I have a couple. No. Okay, so that's what I have so far. Let me just stop there and see if any of that resonated or what your thoughts are. Janet, you're back?
Yeah, I think we've got raging gale outside. I don't know if the internet's kind of, but it keeps dipping in and out. Yeah, so I've just put a note in the Yammer group because I wasn't sure I'd get back in. So I think I'm looking for something that's like close, it's not so big, and something that's much more pragmatic and detailed. And so I don't want to kickstart a big research project, although that's my natural tendency is to look big and long term.
Yep.
That's why I think when I first put the call out was people who've got that kind of focus and consistency, which I have down at the bottom. How can we really focus on some really simple, pragmatic metrics that we can use in a high school level? Because I haven't seen anything that Gallup are doing in that area, but I think there's an awful lot of us working in education, and in the UK I'm alone. Nobody else. There's a couple of people dabbling, and I think we need. I'd like something that was quite simple, and ideally quite elegant, that it wasn't too convoluted.
Do you have an example of an elegant and practical metric that is used for somewhere else?
No, I know that there's an equality and diversity metric that's used in the UK, which people get bronze, silver, gold award.
Can you share that with us?
Yeah, I don't have access. I don't know if I've probably got it somewhere. But that's why I was quite drawn to Dion's kind of framework, because it just seemed like something that was quite simple, that I could create these sort of 10 criteria along the top.
Yep.
And be able to come up with a score. And so, if we could refine what those 12 things might be. And
the thing is, Jan, so I see your idea. So those 11 or 12 different things are, I would call them interventions. Okay, those are 11 different interventions that an organization or a school can have, right? They could have strength workshops, they could have peer mentors.
Those ones on the left-hand side are Dion's organizational readiness.
Right.
The ones that I was putting onto the right-hand side of it were about things that I was doing in class and the impact they would have. So by the time I've done my 5 weeks of 1-hour workshops,
yep,
I will have had them in week 1 do the, can you say, like, the best parts of the best of me? This is what I'm really good at. This is what I love doing. and the metric would be how easy was it for them to say that. So the number 11, they would be able to, I can make a really clear statement about something that I'm really excellent at. I particularly love reading.
Aha! That is a totally, our conversation just a huge pivot. Okay, so now I'm getting clearer, and I
Yeah.
love it.
I was
Okay?
going to say when you were describing earlier, because I was following your chart with the one-on-one conference, the ATL, that thing, I think I can probably understand through you explaining how some of those are represented. Like on your chart, which one represents that particular point of the ease to which I can express my strengths? Is there one of the categories
Yeah,
here?
that's the kind of thing that was there. So on the right-hand side of that chart, there's 11 bullet points in the notes section, which sort of tries to explain where I am with it. And it was about whether you consider organisational practice, but also it's about, can you consider organisational practice or pupil development in the same chart? And how could and would teachers use charting of personal growth? And what are the target growth criteria we might have for functional versus impact of a student's growth? And how can we then, if we come up with those growth factors of students, how can we then come up with a descriptor and give that a numeric value? And what might those 10 or 12 criteria be? So I've just kind of been adapting Dion's criteria, and I'm trying to shape them. And it might be that, I've got a few. It may be that, and one of them might be they've taken part in a strengths workshop. And actually that might be just I don't know, some of those are kind of a functional, what have we actually done? But actually it's the ultimate is about how's that child grown through participating.
I love it. I'm getting now, Jan. I'm getting at the end of the hour here. I'm finally think I understand
okay.
what I'm looking at it through the lens of an organization.
Yeah.
I think you're looking at it through the lens of, if you were to take a student who's never had strengths and a student who is supremely aware
excellence. Yeah.
on their strengths, how could you chart where each student is at in their strengths journey?
Kind of escalator.
Am I hearing that right?
Yeah, pretty much an escalator.
An estimator.
Escalator.
An escalator. Okay.
You have escalators.
I don't want to be rude. I gotta go, but I will email with my commitment later. I think I definitely hear what you're saying, and I think one thing that might address part of everything. I have a few friends that are both teachers and principals, so I'm gonna make appointments to meet with them.
Great.
To hear firsthand from them what might be some of the metrics that they share with me that are important both in the classroom and at the administrator principal
Great.
level.
When should we meet again, Jan?
I mean, if we could kind of catch up in a week's time, that will give us maybe some time to talk.
Is that too soon, Liz? A week?
It might work well for me. I know I have a speaking engagement all day next Friday, but it might not be enough time for me to. I don't mind getting together again. I don't know how the availability of the two people.
Yeah, I seem to think a week is too short. I think 2 weeks would be better.
Yeah, I think 2 weeks.
Is that too long for you, Jan?
No, I'm going on holiday on. I need to do it before the 11th.
All right, I'll look for some time before the 11th.